Naughty Dog has been in the news over the past couple of months because of Intergalactic the Heretic Prophets. Absolutely abysmal initial reveal. A lot of people were not happy with what they saw. The lead actress, Tati Gabrielle, freaked out over it. And now we're finding out that the developers were hit with mandatory crunch, and the access media is saying Sony is evil and we need to run to their defense. I have a few different things to show off, but before I get into the topic, if you enjoy the content I create, check out the links in the description, join the community in my live streams, and consider supporting through Patreon or YouTube memberships. Now, of course, we've all been talking about Naughty Dog since The Last of Us Part 2 came out and disappointed millions of gamers. But now that we're hearing they are reportedly hit with mandatory crunch, we are seeing a lot of freakouts from the media, which of course is hilarious to me because they expect us to run to the defense of people that have severely damaged this industry. Why would you ever think that we would do that? And sure, do I think that crunch is a positive thing? No, not necessarily. I do think that it does suck that you are being hit with this, but at the same time, we are not talking about them being forced and pushed into such an uncomfortable situation because we're not talking about physical work. We're not talking about things like construction workers or engineering. We're not talking about things that drastic. And there's also a limit to how much they can actually crunch. And it really just sounds like a lot of these developers are upset that not only do they have to return to office, but that now they have to work a little bit more. And it just seems that Sony is ticked off. I did another video on this topic. It will be linked down below, but Sony is pushing their studios to actually work. They are pushing the leadership from Sucker Punch out seemingly. He says that he's leaving on his own. I don't necessarily believe that, but now there are two new co-leaders there. At Naughty Dog, you have them rushing to get the Intergalactic internal demo done because apparently they've missed several deadlines. You have the marathon art director leaving the studio after all of the plagiarism and really just terrible art design accusations. And we are just seeing a lot of things changing over at Sony, which could be good, I suppose, but never trust them. It says, though, it sounds like things have not been going especially smoothly behind the scenes. The Bloomberg report says Naughty Dog has missed multiple internal deadlines on Intergalactic, and this pushes an attempt to get the game back on schedule. Employees were reportedly told not to work more than 60 hours per week, and were also ordered to return to the office for 5 days a week rather than the 3 days per week that was previously permitted. And I do think that work from home can be more productive. It is really a blessing to be able to work from home, but we are still, again, talking about people going and sitting and staring at a computer screen. So I don't really feel all that bad for the activists who have damaged the video game industry and the fact that, ooh, they actually have to go into work now. And the gamer is running defense pieces for them and hit pieces against Sony, saying Naughty Dog's crunch culture is everything wrong with modern AAA video games. It's so hilarious to me that in one statement they can be so out of touch. It is absolutely wild. It is absolutely insane. If you think crunch is the worst thing happening in the video game industry, you are part of the problem. We have activists who are running rampages on these specific franchises that they know is going to upset people if they change the lore and they ignore the source material, which they constantly do. You have people being hired based on their race and their gender and not actually their skill set. We need to go back to merit-based hiring. You have actresses like Tati Gabrielle causing divide in this industry. Why is crunch the worst thing on the planet in your opinion? It could be so much worse because it is so much worse. It says Intergalactic was never going to be immune to Naughty Dog's crunch culture. They've always been known for crunch culture. I'm not trying to say that, again, this is acceptable, but you knew what you were signing up for when you started working for this studio. It says Naughty Dog has been called out for its unhealthy crunch culture a number of times over the years. It's lauded highly ambitious games like Uncharted 4 and The Last of Us Part 2. Both required development teams consisting of hundreds to work overtime to reach the finish line. All of these games push the medium forward with prestige narratives, lifelike characters, and visuals that push the boundaries of realism. Yeah, surely. But all these groundbreaking things came to an undeniable human cost. Developers who burnt themselves out and lost love for the craft were kept from their families for months at a time and prayed they would have sufficient time to make this game the best it could possibly be. They make it sound like they were locked in a basement, like they were forced and held there against their will, and they were going to be killed if they didn't work harder. They make it sound so insane. Of course, it's because they are pushing a narrative. They are trying to frame it through a certain political lens, and they are trying to get normies on their side, people who don't know the context, people who don't know what these people are doing in the industry. Millions of copies sold and critical acclaim aside, enough former developers and journalists called out these practices that something had to be done. The pandemic, relentless layoffs, and the general state of an ever-changing industry meant that Naughty Dog had an incentive to change its culture for the better, and for a couple of years it felt like the studio had started learning from its past mistakes, but now they're saying they have gone back on their potential, I suppose, because they never made a promise that they were going to massively change your company culture. Not that I'm defending Naughty Dog, because I hate Neil Cuckman's work, and I don't hate him as a person. I just think he's a really bad game developer and leader, and I don't think that he is special. I don't think that he should be running the show, but they are saying that no game is worth ruining human lives for, even Naughty Dog. Oh no, guys, you are getting paid extra to have to work in a time where so many people don't have jobs in this industry, and you're going to complain about it. I think this is just insane. We saw the same thing happen with GTA 6. There were a lot of Rockstar developers who ended up protesting the company and refusing to work. You could make way for people who actually want that job, people who want to be paid $50,000 or $100,000 a year to make a video game. Feel free to leave and make way for people who are actually grateful. They say, though, it turns out that trying to deliver on this inevitably results in crunch, with new reports from Bloomberg claiming that they're already working 60-hour weeks out of preparing for an internal demo. Maybe if they were actually doing the work with the time they had and they were utilizing that time to the best of an ability, maybe not their ability because they don't have many, they would be on track, they would be on schedule, and then it wouldn't have gotten to the situation. And this could also just be on Neil Druckmann's poor leadership skills. This could be because of the developers being lazy, not doing their work. It could be because there was internal conflict. We don't know for certain. Either way, though, it's very hard for me to feel all that bad for these people, and I know a lot of gamers are going to feel the same exact way. So I will be keeping my eye on this situation, but now we have these hit pieces against Sony coming out. Not that I'm defending them, but I think that it's funny to actually see the media push back a little bit against these companies because they are trying to defend their own. Their ilk are in trouble, actually having to work for once, and this is causing an uproar. And, well, ultimately, they are the ones who missed the deadlines, and that means that they're going to need to hit new ones, and they're actually going to have to put in a little bit of effort. But that's all that I really had to discuss in this video. Let everyone know your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this important and informative, make sure to give it a like, share it, and subscribe to the channel. And if you didn't, give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I'll talk to you all again in the next video really soon.